Coach Laura Erickson with blonderunner.com. I did want to go through, I've actually had somebody ask me a question on technology and what watches I use. Welcome, I'm glad you came. I recognize that name. It's Crystal that's coming back to find out what I have to say about GPS watches. And thanks for joining us, Jim, and others that have joined. This is a great topic, actually, and I think that technology, it's huge now in training, what we can utilize and in our training to make us better. So I think it's fantastic. And I wanted to, I work with a lot of beginners. I've been coaching for 18 years now. I've been a runner for 30 years. When I started running, we didn't really have much. We had a stopwatch. We had our watches on our wrists, and it was that chrono feature. I do work with a lot of beginners, and I'm surprised when I do track workouts how many of them don't even have a watch. So I'm just getting them started. The first thing I want to cover, just like the basic things. What would you need to start, maybe if you don't have a lot of money? And then we'll go from there. So a lot of what I utilize just at the track is my just a basic. This is a Timex Ironman watch, and it has, I like to get the one with 3 alarms because I utilize my alarms actually to remind me to eat because I get super busy in the day. So I throw that tip out to you. It makes me not worry about time, and then I know when the alarm goes off, it's time to eat. I can get busy and get involved in whatever if I'm writing an article or whatever I'm doing. So those alarms help. But what's important with getting just a basic watch is the chrono feature or the stopwatch feature. That's really beneficial if you're doing any track work. So you can actually, see how much time it took you to go around the track. You can figure out splits and stuff that way. So I would go with a basic watch. I've used the Timex, just a basic Timex watch for a long time. I always get the ones that are waterproof, of course, so I can swim with them as well. Other things, I'm going to talk about other kinds of watches. So that's a good beginner type watch. There are lots of watches. I've actually utilized a lot of things. I've been training for a long time. So I have utilized the Timex, of course, watches. I've used Suunto. I've used Soleus GPS watch. I haven't actually used a TomTom myself, but I have a lot of athletes that have used it, so I'm familiar with its features. The one that I particularly like, the one that I'm using right now is, alarms are definitely a good way to utilize those, just, for eating for sure. So what I'm using right now, since you asked, Crystal, is I am utilizing this. Let me make sure I got your name right. Yeah, Crystal. I utilize the 920 XT with heart rate. It's the Garmin. I've actually been using Garmin for a long time. I started with their 305 watch, which is a fantastic watch. I moved to the 910 XT with heart rate. Love it. One thing I'll say, I've used other watches as well. I find Garmin is super easy to use. It's very beginner friendly if you're kind of technology challenged. Yet at the same time, I honestly think this is the best watch there is out there. I put a review on my website. I actually linked it to another review that's fantastic. If you don't have one, this is a good one to look at. I will say they're expensive, but what I want to illustrate is the value of GPS watch. No matter what brand you have. I've used the old Timex Global Trainer, and that was beneficial too. It's just a very manly looking watch. It's quite large. They do have a new one that just came out, and that looks like a really good one too. This one particularly, this 920 XT, has Bluetooth capability, so you can link it to a power meter, you can link it to your phone, it will download right to your phone. I love that. And then there's the Garmin Connect feature, which it downloads into Garmin Connect. It can also be uploaded into other logging training programs that are really beneficial. And what I like about those programs is it graphs it for you. It breaks it down. Old school, I used to memorize my splits. I still do that a little bit at the track because it's just the way I do it. So, but I used to analyze my data by figuring out what was my mile, what was my average heart rate for each mile, and I had to do that painstakingly. I'd memorize or I'd glance at my watch or I'd try to figure it out. I had to guess a little. Now it's graphed. I can figure it out. I can go in there. I can take segments of my workout and see exactly what I did. And I particularly like numbers. The reason why, and I keep running logs, the reason why is because if I'm racing really well, I can look back and see what I was doing in my training. And if I can mimic those workouts, then I'm like, dang, I'm doing what I used to do when I did that really good race. And it builds confidence for me. So I utilize that in my training a lot. The other thing I highly suggest, a lot of people do not know how to use heart rate monitors, or they don't understand the numbers. And even if you don't understand the numbers, get a watch, a GPS watch that has the heart rate monitor. Because even if you don't understand the numbers, if you hire a coach, they do, and they can utilize those numbers and teach you how to utilize them. So I just, heart rate strap, it comes with the watch. If you get the heart rate, of course, monitor feature with it, but definitely get that, even if you don't know how to use it. One thing I will say is I tend to have a lot of chafing with straps. Any strap. It doesn't matter what brand it is. I have very sensitive skin. I'm a true blonde. So I just wanted to give you a tip or a trick. One thing that I found that really helps is just to wrap a little piece of, this is just, what do you call it, duct tape. It's just red duct tape. And I've wrapped it around the bottom because I find where the chafing happens is between the material and the plastic, the hard plastic. That's where I get that chafing. I've got the scars to prove it. And so I don't even have to use any cream or anything, and I don't have a problem with this. Just make sure the strap, there isn't a lot of movement. The movement is what causes the chafing. So you want it to be snug on you. And you will see as you bop around and run, it may become looser. You have to maybe check it periodically. As you lose weight, it's going to become looser too. So you might have to tighten it up if you're getting some chafing. There's other chafing creams you could use that might help. But definitely wear the heart rate monitor even if you don't understand the numbers. Because eventually if you do understand the numbers and you want to look back at your training, you could do that because now you have the numbers. So if chafing was a concern, hopefully you get that taken care of. I also wanted to not only just cover GPS watches, let me tell you why I think they're so valuable. For me, when I'm running and I can look at my pace, it lets me know, hey, gosh, I'm going slower than I need to be going, or I'm going faster than I should be going. I need to slow down. It helps me change what I'm doing at the time. That is huge. That is so beneficial to have that GPS capability. Plus, it also helps you identify percent grades that, you know, if you're going up a hill, it'll tell you what your percent grade is, and then you can compare that to maybe a race that you're doing, and you can look at the elevation profile and match, you know, that race course, and you can start doing hill repeats on a hill you're actually going to be facing in a training. So I think that's what's really the most valuable thing about GPS. It gives you your feedback immediately. And that's the same thing with watts or power meters with cycling. It gives you information as you're going to allow you to change as you're going. It's also helpful to look at after a workout and analyze that data, but it's really valuable to change what you're doing in a workout immediately. So let's talk about power meters a little bit. This is really the first year I've trained a lot with power. I have trained with power before, but this is the first year I've had a power meter per se. I have done some power meter indoor cycling with a trainer that I have that does some power, but it's not nearly as accurate as a power meter would be. I'm still in the hunt for the best power meter. Mine hasn't been as good as I would like it to be. But what I will tell you about power with a power meter is that it gauges your effort as you're going. Again, it gives you even more fine-tuned, subtle changes you can make. For me, it really has helped me improve my stroke, my pedal stroke, because I'm like, wow, if I just loosen up my hip and pull a little bit better here or there as part of that stroke, then my output, my watts go up, and I know, ooh, that power is there. So it's helped me fine tune and do a little bit better on my pedal stroke. I think I have a lot of room for improvement there, but it's given me more feedback to go off of and get better. So yeah, they're a little expensive. GPS watches are expensive. It just depends on how dedicated you are to the sport and how much information you can handle and what you like, what's going to motivate you. I'm very motivated by numbers. So what's a good one for a beginner just running a multi-sport? I'm a multi-sport girl, so I definitely think it's always good to get any kind of watch that's waterproof. I think it's really valuable, even if you're just a runner, to do cross-training. Even if you're not a triathlete, you know, swimming or yoga or other things, it just gives you more options. I think it's always better. You're going to sweat when you work out, so waterproof's always a good thing. But, you know, this Timex Ironman with I always get the one with 3 alarms. This is like a $30 watch. that's a good starting place. You don't have to go with a $500 watch to start. I'd say get something that gives you some data. You know, honestly, phones and apps, I'm going to talk about those, have so many awesome, they can do GPS as well. And so thank you for thanking me for the scopes. I'm grateful that they're helping you, because this is why I do this. I want to help people understand what they can do to help themselves. I think, so what I was saying with the GPS watches, again, you're getting feedback as you go. I think that's really valuable too. So let's go back. I want to make sure I cover everything and not make this way too long. So, apps that you can use on your phone that are really beneficial. I know a lot of the Nike shoes like have a Nike thing that it'll track what you're doing. I think that's really valuable. A lot of people take their phone with them. This is probably one of the years since I'm training for an Ironman, and so my workouts are extremely long, and so I always want to be available to my kids if they need me, or my husband, and so I have been taking my phone. That's kind of new. I don't always like to run with things in my hands. But there are lots of apps on your phone that you can use to track you while you're going. So if you can't afford a fancy watch, maybe you already have a fancy phone, then you can utilize some of the apps that they have. Some of the ones that I use are my favorite one. They have Map My Run, and they also have Map My Ride, and those. That's a great app. I have utilized that actually to find courses that other people have done. I will say, safety-wise, you probably don't want to make everything that you do on there public so everybody can see where you live. I mean, I'm a safety girl. So, but I do think it's valuable to see what other routes people have done, and you can also map your own route. If you're not sure how far something is, I used to do it old school. I'd drive the route and see how long it was, and it's not nearly as accurate as a GPS watch, of course, but that's a good way to see. You know, it will do your miles. You can map it out and see how many miles maybe your regular loop you go is. Maybe you don't have a watch, you don't know, and you kind of generally time yourself. I've had people time themselves on, you know, they look at the time, and then they look at the time and they get home, and that works too. But if you're really starting to do this more and more, that tracking and those numbers can really give value to your training and push you along. So utilize those apps or check them out. So Map My Run is one I suggest. Another one I really love, and by the way, Map My Run, there's a free, you know, of course they have upgrades and premium and you can get better stuff, but all of them seem to do that. But it's free, and what they offer for free, I think is good enough for a lot of people. Another one that I really, really love, and I'm using this a lot right now, this is actually how I figure out how many calories I need to replace so I'm not losing weight. And it's great for losing weight if you're looking for that too, is MyFitnessPal. I'm actually on MyFitnessPal, so if you want to find me, I'm under, let's see what, I can't remember what my name is called on there. I'll have to look it up, but contact me and we'll connect on my map or MyFitnessPal. But I love it because I can track what I'm eating. I have it connected to my Garmin, so my Garmin uploads my actual workout. It'll tell me how many calories I burn, because when you get the watch, you do put in your weight, and it will tell you. I mean, it's pretty accurate in how many calories you've burned. But it'll let me know. I can track what I've eaten, and then I'll match it up. Did I get enough calories to support what I'm doing? Because I certainly don't want to have problems, so I want to make sure I'm eating enough for what I'm doing, but not too much, right? I don't want to gain weight either, so we want to keep it in balance. MyFitnessPal is fantastic for that. And it's super easy friendly. You can scan foods. It will help you learn about foods. It tells you your nutrients. It'll tell you, of course, there's premium features you can get. I don't actually use those, but you can, it'll tell you how many calories are in it and how many, is it high in vitamin C, all those things, super valuable. Now, if you're just getting started, you don't have a lot of money, but you do want to get a heart rate monitor, I think the better brand is the Polar. I've found a lot of people, it's pretty easy and it's pretty dependable. One thing I will say, if your heart rate monitor isn't working, most of them take a battery. So if your battery's not, if it's working funny or you're getting all kinds of crazy numbers, check your battery. You just need to replace it. I'd say once a year or twice a year if you're using it a lot. Just depends on that. Most heart rate monitors can get wet, by the way. They're and you probably won't have a problem, especially the newer straps don't have a problem getting wet. I use mine in the water. Not that it will read, not that you will get heart rate per se. They actually are coming out with new things like that. There is actually, Cyclops puts out a heart rate monitor that also does watts. It uses algorithms. I have a few athletes that have that. I find that those watts do not read quite accurate, but they're a little high. But either way, they're still getting feedback, and that'll help. Looks like my laundry's done. So, but I think that could be a useful tool if it's only $100 as opposed to, $1,300 for a power meter or more. That might be good numbers. One other thing, here okay, question? Oh, okay, maybe I can cover that another time. Building training plans. I do custom training plans and programs. So, after I've been doing this for 18 years, there's a lot that goes into putting together a training program for each person. I am a custom, so I probably can do some generalizations on maybe what you need to look for or basic things that are involved in that. I can probably do that. So custom plans are custom. Everybody's a little bit different. I think that's what people have a problem with sometimes with health information is it is generalized. So the one thing that might be good for one person may not be for another. So still a good question. We can probably cover that in a future post. I do want to touch a little bit since it's fall now and we're going into winter soon. Another tool that you can utilize with training is going to be a trainer, indoor trainer for your bike. For an actual bike, you put on a trainer, the back wheel goes on the trainer. And there's actually a lot of great ones that can do power, but I wanted to focus on a little less expensive versions, and that would be one thing you need to look out for with a trainer is that you get a fluid trainer versus a magnetic. Magnetic trainer, you've all been on a magnetic, I'm sure, if you've ever taken a spin class and you take your feet off the pedals and they keep going. That's magnetic. In other words, it's not as hard. You want to get one that's going to give you a good workout. Fluid stops when you stop. And so that's, those of course are machines. This is going to be on your bike, so you can't really test it that way. But no, if you're looking for a trainer for your bike, that you make sure that you get one that is fluid. Ask them. Just make sure when you're buying one, it's fluid. Fluids are a little more expensive, but honestly, if you're looking, you can get a used trainer for $150. It's pretty good. And there's lots of good brands out there. So just look, with my athletes, I always help them find a good trainer. There are better brands. And so definitely look for the fluid versus magnetic on that one. I did want to touch on other training tools that I think are valuable. So yes, GPS watches. If you can afford a power meter, absolutely great. Even the basic watch that gives you a stopwatch feature is fantastic to use. A heart rate monitor only if you have that, great. Let's start utilizing it and learning how to use those numbers. Of course, the indoor trainer is good. Another good thing is cameras. GoPro is probably, I think, the best underwater camera and just all over action type thing. You can also use your camera on your phone or your video. I often, in my classes, take video and have people look at themselves running, and they often will be like, wow, okay. So when I'm teaching them how to change their form, it's not only am I seeing it, but they're seeing it for themselves. That convinces them. They usually change their form a lot more when they can see it themselves. So, and that's something you can look at yourself and see. Of course, it helps if you know what you're looking for, and that's what I teach in my classes. I am teaching a little later this month a running form class for the local people. So if you're interested in that, you can check out my website at blonderunner.com and attend if you'd like to. It is Northern Utah. That's where I'm from. So I also wanted to throw out one more thing that's super valuable, and that is a good logging program. There's a lot of logging you can do, like Strava, and that if you want to utilize, King of the Mountain, you want to start getting competitive with other people, that's a great app that you can use, and that can track your training, and you can tie it to your phone, and it does a lot of great things there. Also, for my athletes, I utilize Training Peaks. That's where I build their programs and upload their training. Training Peaks has a free element to it. You can also get a premium upgrade for different things. But that's a great way to just log. You can connect it to your Garmin. It can upload things for you. It also connects with MyFitnessPal, so you can upload your calories and see and kind of look at it all at one time. You can manually log there too, even if you don't have the fancy watches and things. So that's a great training. You know, all these apps and things, I mean, check them out. There are a billion out there, but these I think are the more tried and true. The ones that I utilize, and I think they're really valuable. Tools are tools. They're meant to help us to get better, and hopefully you guys will start, at least take a look. Go look at them, see. I think most Garmin's are very user-friendly. And what I found too, great question, thank you. What I found too is I started with their 305 years ago. They're somewhat similar. I think they don't try to change everything crazily that you cannot utilize it. It's kind of the same. They still change enough about it. Like this 920 XT that I have now, what I really like about it is that it will give me vertical oscillation. It also gives me ground contact time when I'm running. So I actually utilize this with my athletes. So some of them tend to they have a lot of vertical oscillation, too much. And so we're trying to get them to run more efficiently. So we work on that number, trying to get that number down. And so only if they have the 920 can I even see what their vertical oscillation numbers are. But it really helps with developing more efficient running. And that, of course, is going to help them be a better runner and triathlete. So I want my athletes to be, but I've worked with people that don't even have a stopwatch. They're just basic getting started. It doesn't matter. If you turn to really loving this sport and then you can invest in more, great. But if not, utilize what you have. You do not have to be rich per se to be able to utilize, especially the free apps. Unless you don't have a smartphone, I would say try to get a smartphone. That really helps if you have a smartphone because you can utilize those apps if you have that. But if that's all you can afford, fine, utilize it. Lots of great things out there. So hopefully this was helpful, and maybe we'll look at training plans next time around. So join me next time I'm on Periscope. I actually have a list of topics I'm going to be covering now. I've had lots of questions. So thank you so much for all the hearts. Thank you for sending in your questions too. You can always tweet me at Blonde Runner, and that is Blonde Runner with any. So and then I can answer those questions later. But thanks for joining in, and I hope you have a healthy, fantastic day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.